Imagine a barefoot teenager in 1940s Kentucky, married at 15 and living in a tiny cabin built near the coal seams, only to become one of the most outspoken, boundary-pushing voices in country music. That's the Odyssey of Loretta Lynn, a rural girl from Butcher Hollow who channeled her hardscrabble upbringing into fiercely honest songs that redefined what women could say and sing on the radio. In today's video, we'll uncover how this self-taught guitarist and determined wife took on a skeptical industry, championed the struggles of everyday women, and crafted an enduring American saga that resonates across decades. If you believe in the power of real-life storytelling and straight-talk lyrics, buckle up. Loretta Lynn's journey might just inspire you to find your own voice. Loretta Lynn, whose life began on April 14, 1932, though she sometimes claimed 1935. Her birthplace was Butcher Hollow in Johnson County, Kentucky, a remote pocket where her father, Melvin Ted Webb, toiled long hours as a coal miner. The family comprised 8 children living under one roof, with Mother Clary Webb working miracles to keep them fed. They were so poor that many days found Loretta venturing outside with no shoes or wearing homemade flour sack dresses. This was the atmosphere into which Loretta Webb arrived, a world battered by the Great Depression, one that taught her resilience practically from the moment she learned to walk. Recalling her childhood, she often said that hunger itself became a teacher, instilling a sense of drive that refused to let her remain voiceless. Despite the hardships, the family possessed a close-knit bond, relying on each other's love to survive. In 1943, sorrow crept in when Loretta lost her brother Herman to an illness, deepening her emotional outlook on life. Even as a child, she found solace in singing. From hymns at church to simple songs, she'd hum around the house, offering her a glimpse of a wider world beyond Butcher Hollow. At 13, she picked up a guitar that reportedly cost $17, beginning a self-taught process that would forever shape her destiny. In early 1948, at the tender age of 15, Loretta married Oliver Doolittle, Lynn, widely referred to as Do. The wedding took place on January 10th, setting off a series of events that would eventually turn an impoverished mountain girl into a household name in country music. She followed Doolittle out west to Custer, Washington, leaving the hollows of Kentucky behind. Doolittle recognized something special in his young bride's voice. Almost immediately, he bought her a guitar to encourage her nascent talent, perhaps foreseeing that singing might become more than just a hobby for her. Yet the marriage was no fairy tale. Doolittle battled alcoholism and infidelity, and Loretta would later draw on those marital struggles to pen songs that spoke candidly about the challenges women faced behind closed doors. Despite his flaws, Doolittle championed her dream of turning that raw vocal talent into a career. By the late 1950s, they were living in Washington State, where Loretta sang at local bars and neighborhood gatherings. She was perfecting her craft the old-fashioned way, singing her heart out on tiny stages for truck drivers and factory workers who recognized the authenticity in her voice. This grassroots approach hardened her performance skills and also gave her the fortitude to deal with skeptical record executives. Then in 1960, a tipping point arrived. Loretta entered a talent contest in Tacoma, Washington, and won. One of the contest's spectators, Norm Burley, believed Loretta's voice was mesmerizing. He offered to fund a recording session, resulting in her first single, I'm a Honky Tonk Girl, released by the small Zero Records label. She and Doolittle packed the kids into a car, traveling from station to station across the country, personally handing the single to DJs. The grassroots hustle paid off. The song hit number 14 on the Billboard Country chart, marking Loretta's official entry into the music business. With a minor hit in her repertoire, she set her sights on a bigger label. In 1961, she officially signed with Decca Records, later MCA, a step up that allowed her to work with seasoned producers and access broader marketing. A year later, she released Success, 1962, which climbed to number 6 on the charts and ushered in a steady flow of hits. That same year, the Grand Ole Opry extended an invitation for her to join, a dream for any aspiring country artist. This Opry membership not only legitimized Loretta, but also opened avenues to meet radio promoters and book more prominent gigs. She was now thoroughly embedded in the Nashville scene, a place that could be ruthless, especially for a relatively unpolished singer from the hollers. Loretta's unvarnished background and sincere, sometimes sassy stage persona endeared her to fans looking for realness in a city that often glamorized the genre. By 1966, she scored her first number 1 single with Don't Come Home A-Drinkin', with Lovin' on Your Mind. The track's blunt commentary on a husband stumbling home intoxicated was a testament to Loretta's willingness to speak truths that many female artists kept behind closed doors. She wasn't just writing love songs, she was channeling real struggles, particularly those tied to her own marriage with Doolittle, which included everything from financial strain to emotional turmoil. The single's success, though, proved that listeners long for that unfiltered perspective. In a sense, Loretta was forging an early wave of feminist country, even if she might not have used that term herself at the time. The rest of the 1960s and into the 70s became a golden period for Loretta Lynn, as her music soared and her voice became a megaphone for women in traditional marriages. In 1968, Fist City rocketed to number 1, a fierce anthem about warning another woman to stay away from her man. This bold, no-nonsense attitude resonated with a female audience that had seldom heard such open aggression or assertiveness from a country star. Then came 1970's Coal Miner's Daughter, arguably the most iconic song of her entire career. It was autobiographical, describing her upbringing in Butcher Hollow with a father who worked the coal mines from daylight till dark. This single also reached number 1, eventually selling over 1 million copies. That raw sense of place combined with vivid lyrics about poverty and family devotion established Loretta as the voice of the rural working class. She wore that badge with honor, championing the overlooked stories of everyday women. One's on the Way followed in 1971, another number 1. This humorous yet insightful track explored the chaos of raising multiple kids while pregnant with another, a reflection of Loretta's own experiences as the mother of 6. All these hits shared a theme. They were straightforward, unpolished glimpses into domestic life. She rarely sugar-coated the trials of being a wife and mother, so women across the country saw themselves mirrored in Loretta's lyrics. Meanwhile, men found an entertaining and at times challenging glimpse into what their own spouses might be thinking. 1972 proved a watershed year. She became the first female to earn the CMA Entertainer of the Year title. By then, she'd also been recognized with multiple Female Vocalist of the Year awards, 1967, 1972, 1973, underscoring her standing in the industry. Her success only emboldened her more adventurous side. In 1975, she courted controversy by releasing The Pill, a song about birth control that was banned by numerous radio stations, some calling it too provocative. Despite the backlash, it climbed to number 5 on the charts and is often cited as a key feminist moment within country music. The immediate controversy underscored how revolutionary it was for a woman to address reproductive rights in a conservative genre. Rolling Stone magazine from that year commented that The Pill signaled a major cultural shift, unveiling Loretta not just as a star but as a bold commentator on social issues. Throughout the 1970s, she also forged a legendary partnership with Conway Twitty, resulting in numerous #1 duets. After the Fire Is Gone and Lead Me On from 1971, among others. Their collaborations resonated powerfully, and they won the CMA's Vocal Duo of the Year 4 years running from 1972 to 1975. Meanwhile, Loretta's solo hits like Rated X, 1972, tackled society's stigma against divorced women, further amplifying her role as an accidental feminist icon. She never hesitated to delve into raw, taboo topics, and fans adored her candor. A crowning moment in her mainstream popularity arrived in 1980 when the biographical film Coal Miner's Daughter premiered, starring Sissy Spacek as Loretta and Tommy Lee Jones as Doolittle. The movie became a box office success, and Sissy Spacek garnered an Oscar for Best Actress. The film introduced Loretta's story to a global audience, some of whom had never heard of Butcher Hollow or the grand tradition of country music. Suddenly, she stood as a recognized cultural figure, transcending the usual boundaries that even major country artists faced. By 1982, though, the tides in country radio had begun to change, favoring younger or more pop-oriented styles. Loretta's last top 10 single, I Lie, peaked at #9 that year, signifying that her unstoppable run was slowing, yet she never really vanished. In 1988, the industry acknowledged her monumental contribution by inducting Loretta Lynn into the Country Music Hall of Fame. She joined a pantheon of legends, her name etched into the annals of Nashville's greatest. Even so, her personal life remained turbulent. She'd raised 6 kids with Doolittle, Betty Sue born 1948, Jack Benny born 1949, Ernest Ray born 1951, Clara Marie born 1952, and twin daughters Patsy and Peggy born 1964. Some of them had also tried their hand at music. Others simply supported their mother's endeavors. Over time, she faced heartbreak when her son Jack drowned in 1984, and tragedy revisited her in 2013 with the death of her daughter, Betty Sue. Through each of these sorrows, Loretta found ways to channel her pain into gospel or reflective albums, maintaining a sense of faith and resilience that had guided her since childhood. She lost her husband, Doolittle Lynn, in 1996, after 48 years of marriage. By her account, the relationship was never easy. The drinking, the fights, the arguments, all crept into her songwriting. Yet she also believed he was the driving force who urged her to share her voice with the world. After his passing, Loretta took a temporary step back, grieving. Some fans worried she might never fully return to the stage, but the new millennium brought a different chapter. In 2004, she collaborated with Jack White, frontman of the White Stripes, to produce the album Van Leer Rose. That union looked unlikely on paper, an older country star teaming with a modern rock musician, but the result was electrifying. Van Leer Rose peaked at #2 on the country chart and claimed 2 Grammys, including Best Country Album. The single, Portland, Oregon, a duet with Jack White, won for Best Country Collaboration. Critics declared that at over 70 years old, Loretta was making some of the freshest music of her career, bridging generations in a way few artists could. It opened her up to a new wave of fans, young indie rock listeners who discovered her rebellious spirit and admired how she never lost that spark. Then, in 2013, she endured another devastating blow. Her daughter Betty Sue died of emphysema. Compounded by the earlier loss of her son Jack, it cemented the reality that, despite her fame, Loretta was no stranger to immense personal grief. True to form, she returned from this sorrow with more recordings and appearances, often focusing on uplifting or spiritual tracks that carried the weight of her experiences. She was never one to let tragedy silence her voice for too long. At age 85 in 2017, she suffered a stroke at her home in Hurricane Mills, Tennessee, a ranch she had owned since the 1960s and developed into something of a tourist destination, featuring a museum of her career. The stroke forced her to cancel tours and appearances, leading many to wonder if she'd retire altogether. But remarkably, she rebounded, and although her live performances grew less frequent, she continued to make music. In 2021, at 88, she delivered Still Woman Enough, an album that served as both a testament to her perseverance and a nod to her feminist legacy. Her voice had deepened with age, but the defiance and candor were intact. She often expressed a desire to keep singing as long as the good Lord allowed. On October 4th, 2022, Loretta Lynn passed away at 90 in her Hurricane Mills home. Her family announced it as a peaceful death from natural causes, and the outpouring of grief across the country world was immediate and profound. Tributes flooded in from artists spanning multiple genres, everyone from modern pop country singers to old-school honky-tonkers recognized that an era had ended. She was laid to rest on her ranch, a quiet spot that contrasted with the massive influence she'd wielded on stage and on the radio. Soon after, an emotional Opry tribute took place, featuring voices like Reba McEntire and Carrie Underwood, who recounted how Loretta's boldness inspired them to be outspoken in their own music. By 2024, PBS was airing a special titled Loretta Lynn, My Story, further immortalizing her journey for future generations. The following year, in 2025, a stage musical about her life was set to tour, an apt continuation of how her name, songs, and personal narrative remain deeply embedded in American culture. Despite the changing tides in the music industry, classic tracks like Coal Miner's Daughter or The Pill continued racking up streams online, proving that the candor of Loretta's storytelling stands the test of time. In the end, the numbers do speak volumes. 81 songs on the country charts, 24 of them hitting number one, more than 45 million records sold, accolades like the 1972 CMA Entertainer of the Year and membership in the Country Music Hall of Fame, 1988. Yet the statistics pale compared to the intangible influence she wielded over how women in country could express themselves. She introduced a style of songwriting that refused to hide behind polite metaphors or male-dictated norms. Whether confronting cheating husbands or society's condemnation of divorced women, or openly celebrating birth control, Loretta's lyrical directness was astonishing for the era. She effectively lit the fuse for subsequent female artists like Tanya Tucker, Reba McEntire, and even Miranda Lambert, who felt emboldened to share their own truths. When people reflect on her, they often marvel at how she balanced a huge family, a complicated marriage, and the grinding demands of a touring career. She once recounted how she would take the kids on the road when they were little, sleeping in the back seats, while she performed show after show. In that sense, the traveling road was not merely a professional path, but also her extended home, where the lines between motherhood and stardom blurred. She was known to be fiercely protective of her children and equally protective of her fans, sending messages of gratitude and love in her liner notes, urging them to see themselves in her music. Her ranch at Hurricane Mills symbolized another aspect of her legacy. Starting in 1966, after buying the property, she turned it into a family homestead, eventually opening portions to the public, featuring everything from a replica of her childhood cabin to a museum of stage outfits and awards. This ranch, located about an hour west of Nashville, became a tourist attraction where fans could physically connect with her story. Over time, it also hosted music festivals and charity events. Even after her death, the property remains a pilgrimage site, allowing people to step into the world she built from the ground up, a testament to her entrepreneurial spirit as well as her sense of sharing. Looking at the big picture, Loretta Lynn stands as one of the pivotal figures who shaped the modern era of country music. While she might not have used the language of activism, her songs tackled major social topics with clarity. She delivered them in a voice that was both sweet and steely, revealing her paradoxical blend of vulnerability and toughness. Over nearly 7 decades, she adapted to changing commercial trends, from the classic Nashville sound of the 60s to the more pop country vibes of the late 70s, and eventually to the alt-country roots revivals in the 2000s. She never lost that certain spark of a coal miner's daughter who overcame hardscrabble living to ascend the heights of American entertainment. Now that she's gone, the music remains, and it resonates in a new digital era, finding fresh ears on streaming platforms. People who discover Fist City for the first time realize that Loretta was dishing out pointed truths half a century ago, while The Pill stands as an improbable feminist statement in an unlikely genre. Radio may have softened its stance over the decades, but at the time, these songs were downright incendiary. That's the legacy of Loretta Lynn, an artist who spoke so matter-of-factly about real life that she forced an entire industry to pay attention. When country historians look back, they see her influence in every corner. Whether it's the straightforward storytelling of modern female songwriters or the push for authenticity over chart-friendly fluff. And although her final years were marked by frail health and scaled-back touring, she insisted on releasing albums like Still Woman Enough to underscore that as long as she had breath, she would sing. Even the stroke in 2017 only slowed her, never silenced her entirely. Perhaps the most humanizing aspects are the stories from those who knew her personally. They often describe her as warm, humorous, and unpretentious, still reeling off jokes about her tough marriage or the gossip swirling around her bands from certain radio stations. She was said to be a gracious host, particularly at Hurricane Mills, welcoming both fans and industry friends alike. That sense of generosity extended to her impetus for philanthropic or community-oriented events, reminding everyone that she never forgot her humble roots. In short, the life of Loretta Lynn reads like a grand American saga, born in poverty, married at 15, unexpectedly launching a musical revolution by simply singing the unfiltered truth. She overcame tragedies that might have broken others, yet her ambition and grit carried her to unimagined heights. CMA Entertainer of the Year, a film depicting her life that won an Oscar, chart-topping collaborations, a museum dedicated to her achievements, and a discography that spanned from honky-tonk basics to avant-garde, rock-influenced records. By the time she passed at age 90 in 2022, she had already left an indelible mark, giving voice to those who shared her background, but had never seen themselves reflected in country music. And that's exactly why, come 2024 or 2025, new tributes, musicals, or documentaries about her story keep emerging. Because the deeper you dig into Loretta's journey, the more you see the universal themes of perseverance, self-discovery, love, heartbreak, and the relentless push to be heard. Hers is a legacy that transcends charts and awards, standing as a living testament that even a coal miner's daughter from the backwoods of Kentucky can change the face of American music with grit, honesty, and a voice that refuses to be silenced.